This is a part of a small series of more explained keyboard stuff, so stay tuned for the rest of the series. There are a couple types of mounting styles that I will have to forego due to a lack of information on them, and here we go. So, I'll start with tray mounts. What is a tray mount essentially? It's just a case, standoffs, and PCB plate. So the plate and PCB both get screwed into the standoffs on the bottom of the case. And well, this is very simple, you can't mess it up. So if you do get one, then if you mess it up, don't show it to me. I don't want to see something so messed up like that. Something so simple can get screwed over. But the problem with tray mounts, besides the fact that it's like, I don't know, tray mount, and has like small points where it's super stiff and other points where it's like any other mount. Besides that inconsistency, there's not actually that much bad about it. The good points are it's super common to find, super, like, I guess, cheap, easy to get, and well, besides that inconsistency part, it sounds pretty okay, especially if you have a brass plate. If you're using a polycarbonate plate, have fun. It sounds terrible. But before I leave, I'll give a couple examples just so you know what you're looking at. One type of a couple tray mounts I will list here is like, you know, those Razer keyboards you find, those like the Tofu 60, the GK61s, the GKs in general. Basically any off the shelf is normally a tray mount. Some might be like a, actually wait, nah, who am I kidding? All of them are tray mount. Literally each and every one of them. Next up, the oh so famous gasket mount. If it sounds familiar, you probably do know what it is. Like T-Fuse $3,500 keyboard from Teha. I'll put that as an info card on the top. But basically, it's a sandwich, a keyboard sandwich. So basically, you have two pieces of the case. The case is split into two, the top and bottom part. And you put your plate and your PCB just like held together by switches, and just put it on top of the bottom plate and clamp it down at the top plate. And where the gaskets come in is that on the contact points of the two frames, there are small rubber things known as gaskets, as I just said. And what they do is they dampen the amount of like force pressed down onto the PCB and plate. I don't actually have a gasket mount with me to explain, but essentially what it is, right, is that there's no screw holes on the PCB and plate, and essentially you just clip it together with the switches, you put it onto the bottom housing, and then sandwich it to the top housing. And what it achieves, right, is that only around the corners is it a bit stiff. In the middle, where your hands are mostly typing, it's pretty consistent. Compared to tray mount, it's super consistent. Like, oh my god. A couple examples of this great gasket mount is probably like a lot of key cults. Basically, a lot of things you see like on group buys, as I explained in the last video, are essentially gasket mount. I mean, you might find a stack mount, but I'm not covering stack mount in this video. I rarely find any. But more on the examples, there is like the GMMK Pro, which I talked about earlier. There is like key cults. Well, oh, the KBD 67s, 67 Lite, the KBD TF V2, which I was planning to get, but didn't buy it because it's expensive. So yeah, just look out for those. Those are confirmed gasket mounts. Oh wait, before I leave, gasket mounts. If you buy a gasket mount and you see these weird looking rubber things, right? Those are your gaskets. And what they essentially do, which I'm not exactly certain because I'm not smart, but what I think they do is when it clamps onto the keyboard, if you don't have those gaskets, your PCB and plate are gonna flop around and wobble a lot. So, and if it wobbles a lot, you're gonna clamp down harder. And when you clamp down harder the case, right, you're gonna limit it to the point where it becomes stiff in the corners. So the gaskets are put at the corners to make sure that when it's clamped down, it'll be consistent around the corners and not feel stiff, because it's not like a hard object like pressing down on the plate and PCB. So, well, that's gasket mounts. So Yeah. Okay, so another one, I mean, I've been through a couple already. It's called plateless. Literally, it's just plateless. Like, you can do it with any freaking keyboard. I mean, almost any. Plateless is the most flimsiest, but the most, like, I'd say, nice sounding to some extent. It doesn't give the same sound signatures as, like, let's say brass or aluminum or even polycarbonate, maybe even FR4, but basically it's just no plate. All flex is done in the PCB. It's probably the one build that I will never do. It just scares me. Like, literally just no plate, and your keys are free to wobble, and if it's not soldered, you're screwed. Cause geez, I am afraid of these things. It's man, it's so flimsy. Alright, so if you've been on Reddit, there's a couple of these nice looking integrated plate builds. Basically, it's just a gasket mount, but integrated plate. What I mean is, it's super stiff. Like, geez, these things are like, they're stiff. They're really stiff. I mean, they're not terribly stiff, but if I don't know, somehow if you get like a polycarbonate plate, it might sound better, but well, who knows? Integrated plate is an integrated plate. You can't change it out, and that's all you have to do. So, well, it's stiff and mostly hollow, so not much to say about that.
Seeing all the water rain fill my eyes, doing the things they know, talking about the same old story.